Hi, everybody. Welcome to a very special bonus edition of Talking Elite Fitness. I'm Sean Woodland inside the Working Against Gravity studios with Tommy Marquez. He is remote right now. But Tommy, before we get into the excitement that is about to ensue, we need to tell people about our good friends at Working Against Gravity and what a fantastic job they do helping not only you, but everybody get their nutrition dialed in.
And by everybody, we mean the 21,000 plus people that have signed on with Team WAG since their inception. Just as you and some of our good friends are about to lay out a plan for the CrossFit Games season, WAG can lay out the perfect nutrition plan for you, whether you're keto, intermittent fasting, whether you only eat root vegetables or whatever it may be. If you're, I mean, they've literally helped people that only eat vegetables. They're vegetarian, vegan, or they're trying to get pregnant and adjust hormones. Whatever it may be, they can pair you one-on-one with a nutrition coach that can help you set up a system of sustainable nutrition habits to fit your lifestyle. And they've worked with everyone from a regular old schmuck like myself, just trying to keep off the old broiler around the waistline, to some of the fittest athletes in the sport, like Katrin David's daughter, Cole Sager, some athletes that you can see at the top of the leaderboard every year at the games. And if you guys want a special deal for our listeners, go to workingagainstgravity.com, use the code ELITE50. You'll get $50 off your first month. Plus, they have a 90-day money-back guarantee. So if you're not happy with the results and what you're getting, you can get all of your money back, plus that initial investment that you have to make goes down with that $50 off. So ELITE50 at workingagainstgravity.com.
Big fans of Working Against Gravity. Now, we're also big fans of the two gentlemen who are about to join us here on this episode. And Tommy,
drum roll, please.
What is that, Tommy?
That's a sweet ass.
God, that's Get With The Programming's music. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show our great friends, Chase Ingraham and Bill Grundler from the Get With The Programming podcast.
Dude, did we just get WWE'd in on that?
You did, man. Making the
like
walk down the ramp.
smokestacks and laser lights and the theme music. Is it like Chase coming out in capes right now?
Yeah, that would be badass.
Off your own music? I can't tell.
All right, so this is why we're all gathered. We talked about this on our episode. And we wanted to, we felt like this deserved a whole episode, not just a segment. This past weekend, Chase and I were just kind of exchanging texts. And we started playing idea tennis, and then we went down this idea rabbit hole, and we came up with what I think is a really good structure to the CrossFit Games season. And so we said, listen, we got to pitch this to somebody. So why not bring Bill and Tommy together, and we can see what they think, because there are still some problems that we have to deal with, some hurdles, I think, to make this happen. But we wanted to get in front of you two first. So thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah. Kidding me?
I almost cross-pollination.
I almost forgot one thing. So give me 2 seconds, because if I'm going to be accepting this pitch, I got to look the part.
All right.
Uh-oh.
I'm afraid with what's going to happen.
Uh-oh.
I'm like slightly nervous
and slightly intrigued.
Now I'm just looking at his room now.
Okay. What?
Oh.
All right. So for those of you who are not watching this, that is a very loud
that is a
purple blazer.
That is a culturally appropriate blazer right here.
That is awesome.
Oh,
in
man.
my finest suit to hear what you young businessmen have to offer me today.
Okay.
Wow.
Well, here we go. So we'll start. This whole thing started, and Chase, jump in whenever you want to keep me honest, or add anything that you need to add. Chase and I were talking. I think we were texting. I was telling him about. I was listening to the episode that Bill and Chase did on their podcast, Get With The Programming, about where they talk about the season and stuff like that. And I enjoyed it, and sort of bantering back and forth. And then I said, I'm trying to figure something out where we could seed people out of the open, and that's how this whole thing started.
Yeah.
So here's how we're going to start. Our season, you're going to go back to, we're going to have 16 regions. Okay, you got to have regions to start in the open. Now, those aren't necessarily going to come into play later on, but they come into play in the open. And you can draw them up however you want. You might need to take one away from the U.S. or North America and add one in someplace else. But you need 16. You're going to do the open, just like we always do. And I'm even up for, I think some of you guys talked about, which is having teams in the open, but they do team events. I think that's fantastic. Okay,
I think the big reason we wanted for that is because if Dave, who's mentioned this before, truly wants to go back to the affiliate cup model, forcing people to do all the workouts together for specific team workouts, I think will clear that up about as good as you could do with the system that he would in place. So
Mhm.
if all 4 of your athletes, or however you want to set it up, me and Bill fluctuated between 6 to 8 people.
Yeah.
But if you did that, then they have to be there.
Well, and you want people to buy in. You want them to, it's like, okay, if you're stepping into the open side, you're all into the open side. And what that does is it really knocks off that, well, I'll take the teams as a second place. If I don't make the individual, I'll go to the team because I'm still a good enough athlete. And it's like, no, you're either going to step into the ring and it's going to be that big ring over there, or it's going to be that ring over there. Like, and that's it. You get your choice, and that's it. Oh man, I really like that one.
Agreed,
I
100%.
like that.
So just to clarify, there will be open workouts designed for teams.
Yes.
And you have to declare and stick with that for the season. So no.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
For the
right.
games, for the game season.
For the game.
Yeah.
So the one caveat I thought about this too, because I was trying to think, was like, you want to still make sure it's a worldwide open for everyone who wants to do it. The only teams that you would make are those that want to go for the CrossFit Games season.
Right.
So if those in your affiliates, they can still do affiliate team scores just like the old way. So if your affiliate is let's say call it an affiliate score, not necessarily a team score, right? So you would submit your individuals that want to go for the season, your general mass public, just like the open has always been, and then your specific team. So really you're just separating the elites kind of in their own playing field and still keeping the open just like it always has been in the past.
Okay. Yeah. And they've talked about having affiliate leaderboards, right? Where it's just the whole collection. Okay. Yep.
Yes.
All right. Tommy's taking copious notes here. All right. So that's how we're going to set this thing up. 16 worldwide regions. We'll do the open. We'll call it 5 weeks. At the end of those 5 weeks, you take your top 20 in every region. All right. Top 20 individuals. And I think it would be like top 10 teams. But I'm going to focus primarily on the individuals, but understand that it's going to be the same process for the team. So you take your top 20 in each region. Now this is where it gets fun. Those 20 individuals in each region are now qualified, have now moved on to the qualifying rounds for the CrossFit Games. And the way this will work is that round 1 will be 16 sanctioned events. All right. And they will take place around the world. And the way that you're going to come up with the elite field for these sanctioned events is that you take the top 10 from one region and you pair them with the bottom 10 from another. So now you're cross-pollinating regions. So you don't have that, well, that region's so easy that guy's just going to run away with it. And there's an advantage for finishing in the top 10. If you finish in the top 10 in your region, you are basically guaranteeing yourself, and I'm not saying no travel, but minimal travel to get to your first event. So you might, as an example, if you're in the Northeast and you're in the top 10, maybe the first round is at the Atlas Games. So you're going to go to the Atlas Games. That's not a terrible trip to make if you're in the Northeast. Whereas if you finish in the bottom 10 in the West or in California, you might find yourself, down in South America,
Australia,
over in Europe, or in Australia. So now there's travel required, and we've cross-pollinated the regionals. Okay, so now we have 16 events.
How do you set those up again? How do you set up your top 10, your bottom 10?
So it would be,
I mean, I get the placing part, but like, how do they go? How do you determine which? Yeah.
That's what would be fun is that I don't know how you would do that per se. Like there's got to be a system in place to do it. You might say you might pair them up beforehand, but I like the idea of having a selection committee like the NCAA tournament does. And then we have a selection show before the start of the qualifying rounds where we unveil all 16 of the first sanctioned events that host round 1 and where all the athletes are going. And I think what's cool about this is that there are a lot of sanctioned events out there that don't have the benefit of having big name athletes show up to their events because they either don't have the prize money or they're at a point in the season where people are trying to taper, whatever it is, location. This equally disperses the talent pool among 16 events. So you're getting big names regardless of where you are in the world.
The athletes have to go to all 16?
No, just one.
They just have to go to one.
Yeah. So you're going to pick. So for example, let's say round 1 for the Northeast, or like for the Northeast, and we'll call it the West. For the top 10 Northeast, bottom 10 West. That's the Atlas Games. So top 10 for the Northeast go to the Atlas Games. Bottom 10 from the West go there, and that's one event. Now we should say now too, programming across the entire qualifying round, all the rounds, is standardized.
Yes.
Okay.
Everyone's doing the same workouts. And I'm thinking
Regional style. Regional
right,
style.
exactly. And I'm thinking 6, maybe 7. Not a ton.
No.
Okay.
Yeah. Because of the multiple rounds that we're going to
Right.
do that we have coming up is that
Ooh.
regionals was 6, maybe 7.
Yes.
These don't need to be the CrossFit Games just yet, just preparation too. And I feel like every round we go into, and I'm not going to jump ahead too much because it's still really exciting, is that you can up the ante just a little bit and a little bit more until like it comes to the head. That would end up being the CrossFit Games.
Okay, with those 16 events, how many weeks is that?
So my ideal plan is, and again, this is where some of the hurdles come in because scheduling becomes a real problem.
Right.
But my plan would be to have 4 per weekend over a month. So now it's like the first 2 weeks of the NCAA tournament where there's always something going on. You tune in on a weekend, and the other assumption I'm going to make here is that they all have the level of coverage that we used to provide during the regionals. That's another thing. Like everyone's getting the same thing. You're going to get to watch all these events. You'd have a studio sort of anchoring it all, bouncing you back and forth, and we keep you updated on everything that's going on.
Public, you better jump on that one right now. Because that's what everybody wants. They want to be able to see that stuff, man.
Yeah.
Jeez. So
I'm
cool.
going to sit here and stroke my beard discerningly,
Okay.
despite the fact that I approve so far.
All right. So round 1. Now we have 16 sanctioned events around the world that are hosting 20 elite athletes trying to get to the CrossFit Games. You do, like I said, 6 to 7 events that are all standard. And at the end of that weekend, the top 10 move on. So if you finish 11th or below in your one of those elite divisions, you're out. Top 10 now move on. And this does not prevent these sanctioned events from holding other competitions, like community competitions, RX competitions. They can do whatever they want, and that's how they can make money. Because I think we can get into this a little bit later. I think there's got to be some sort of revenue sharing or some sort of pot from which all these sanctioned events draw from in order to keep the prize money equal in round 1. So that way athletes can't say, well, that's no fair. He got to go there and make 10,000. I got a free t-shirt.
I have an idea on how to do that.
Okay.
As we get to the end, if we would like, I can save it.
All right, let's save it.
To make sure I pull Tommy on board, because I feel like Tommy's like in World War Z mode, where like if everybody agrees, he has to be the one guy not to agree.
There has to be a dramatic cut looking down the length of a long like New World Order style table, and I'm the one general that's kind of in the dark.
There you go.
It like does a zoom in. Yep.
Okay, so we've had 1 full month of competition, loaded with competition for a weekend. And now we have cut the field from 320 eligible athletes, and this is individual. For teams, I think you would go from 80 down to 40, if I'm doing my math right, because it's be the same story for them.
Okay.
And so the individuals now go from 320 down to 160.
Okay.
And now we move in to the round of 8. All right. So once again, you combine. You take the 10 qualifiers from this regional or from this sanctional and the 10 qualifiers from this sanction, and they meet at another one. All right. So let's say, again, let's use the Northeast as an example. Your top 10 from the Northeast, maybe they meet up with the top 10 from the Atlas Games, meet up the top 10 from Europe, and they go to strength and depth. All right. So now you have your field of 20 for strength and depth. And you repeat the process. So
we'll call it something completely original. Let's just go with the Elite 8.
Yeah, Elite 8. Exactly. I like that.
That is genius. Purple jacket's coming in handy.
Yes. So now we have same setup. We have 8 events that take place over maybe a 2-week period now. So you still have 4 per weekend, or you could spread it out and do 2 per weekend over a month, something like that. But I like the compressed time frame because it makes it super exciting and you don't get tired of it, and you get a break in between. So now you have 160 athletes in 8 locations. Same thing, 6, 7 events, and doesn't keep these events from holding other competitions because with only 20 athletes, men and women, so 40 total, they don't have to dedicate a ton of time to the elite field, but it is the feature of their event. Top 10 again move on to the final 4. So now you're down to 80. Sorry, you're down to 80 athletes. So 80 athletes now move on to the final 4. Again, you take a break. Then you have your final 4 weekend where you have 4 sanctioned events, 20 athletes each that take place at the same time with standardized programming. And now the top 5 from those events go to the CrossFit Games.
Boom.
Dang. So that cuts the field to
You'd have 20 who go to the CrossFit Games. And the reason I say 20 is because I like, after seeing the Rogue Invitational and how they did, just 2 heats of elite athletes, I think that's a really good number. You don't have any cuts.
I agree with
Don't have
that.
to worry about that. I understand the aversion to 40 because that's a lot of people. And those, and let's face it, those early heats don't mean a whole lot as you move on into the weekend. But if you keep it at 20, there's something right on each heat. And I think that could keep it really exciting. So I think you'd have 20 individuals and 12 teams advancing to the CrossFit Games. And those would be later in the year that they want to push it back. So those would be, I guess, September-ish, October. So that would give you time to hold those 3 chunks of competition throughout the year. So it's essentially regionals expanded through the sanction events. And if you've been playing along at home, 16 plus 8 plus 4 is 28. You would be able to keep all the sanctioned events that you have right now. So no one gets left out. But the problem is determining who is the final 4, who gets in the 8 and who gets in the 16. So those are some hurdles we'd have to clear. And then also the scheduling aspect of it, because you need to coordinate this to where you have, all these events are scheduling on the same weekends. Now and I think that's the big problem. Then also the revenue part of it and the prize money part of it, so that athletes aren't getting left out. Everyone has an equal opportunity to make money as you go along.
Well, and I mean, I like the fact that you're looking at the athletes and try to make that equal across the board. I think that's awesome. The first thing I would look at if I was a sanction event coordinator, everybody wants the top qualifier. Everyone wants that big one. That's the one where all, like, you have the top of the top. They're going to be showing up there. So are you an under player if you're one of the first qualifiers? Does that put you bottom tier? Are you JV status as the for the sanctional event at that, or is the money going to be the same as you make your way through? Because you're going to have Dubai and Wadapalooza and some of these other ones, West Coast, whatever, they have the money to do that, and then you're going to have some of the other events that don't have that. And I understand the idea of revenue sharing it through it, but is that going to be equal across all of those, so that if you are the first round versus the last round, are you more important or less important? Mm-hmm. Because if we're going to be more important, I want that spot. If you're going to be less important, I don't want to be that. I don't want to be that guy.
So here's my thought on the first round, second round, third round. The only change should be that maybe the excitement and then the competition gets a little bit more dense as you get through. My idea, to Sean's point about revenue sharing, is that hopefully whatever this system is completely blows up the open in a way that we know it could be and what it should be. And so what I'm thinking of is that there needs to be, if the sanctioned events are going to come in and basically save the CrossFit Games, which is what they've been trying to do without any help whatsoever from CrossFit, I mean, paying to use their name isn't helping the sanctioned events, right? So it needs to be the other way around. And so what I'm thinking of is, you take some percentage from the open, divvy it up evenly to every sanctioned event, and say, you must use this for prize money, and here's what the prizes will be for individuals and teams for the qualification part. They can do whatever they want for their own event, and you must use this percentage allocated for a media presence.
Totally. That I could see.
Right? So they are given funds from the percentage of participation through the open. So the better the open does, the better everybody does. And then it doesn't change from round 1, 2 to 4, or 1, 2 to 3. Now, my one idea that I was thinking about as soon as I sat down for this is that I'd love there to be their own media presence for all round 1. And if you give them the funds to do so, they must have it, right? You can't just take it and not use it for media presence, right? And so when you have these events in different countries, they can stream it in their own native language. You have one in South America, and you have one in Europe, and you have one, in Asia, and they have their own feed. So CrossFit's job would have this basically 3 nonstop days of coverage around the world in the Sweet 16 setup, where you desk guys, if I want you guys back in your old positions when that comes.
Totally.
You're going to get shit on for about 3 straight days. But, maybe guys have some backups. And
everyone has a fetish, man.
Ew.
And
Ew.
HQ's job in round one is to cover news-wise everything. They supply the feeds from their media entities, the updates in the news, and it's just 72 hours of just straight competition, right, to kick off the season.
So would it be like essentially these events would retain streaming rights for their event? However, would you still, so say for example, say Rosa's trying to package this big beautiful media deal to a partner like CBS. Would it be a duality thing, like kind of like we had how CrossFit retained rights to stream on their own platform? However, CBS also had rights to stream on CBS Sports. You could have a particular coverage that would go that direction for I guess a network style coverage, and then that event could still put something on as well.
So what I would think is that if CrossFit's supplying the funds to put on your own media presence, they in turn get the content of which you create. And then at least in the first round, I wouldn't say, in kind of what I'm getting to by the third round, is that, 28 would suffice all sanctioned events. Maybe not all want to play this year. So what I'm thinking of is 16, they all do their own media. CrossFit promotes it, puts it on their website, links to it. They get the content that they can pre-package or post-produce afterwards for a live TV thing, setting up the next round.
Oh, okay.
Same thing for the round of 8, but in the round of 4, CrossFit takes over. CrossFit takes over the round of 4, 1 per weekend or 2 per week, whatever it is you want to do, 2 and 2, and it's live TV at the most imperative point in time of like, these are going to the CrossFit Games. You're only taking 5, only 20 will make it. So like CrossFit takes over that 4th round, and that's kind of like their, media, financial, commitment, blood in, blood out style for that.
Well, and ideally, I mean, I like the idea because that was kind of what we were doing before. What I think would have to happen to blow that up would be the ability of getting not just like a sponsor, but start pushing big for sponsors to be able to really blow that up, so that it's not. I mean, what you guys, Sean and Tommy, especially sitting in the media room, the stuff that you guys had to do, what you were giving the public, and the price that they were getting it for was completely off kiltered. You know what I mean? And we always talked about having sponsorship and having appropriate sponsorship to be able to get the right amount of money to do what we needed to do. But I think that that's going to be, I think that's important too, to be able to have that and make that what it's supposed to be, rather than crushing the 6 people that are involved and hoping that they can make it through the weekend. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just smashing people. I mean, to make it an official thing, like you got to have the money backing it. You have to have the people back. You got to have the team to back it. And it takes money to do that. So it would be cool that CrossFit would be able to step into that, but I don't know if they can, at least on the first shot, the first year around, where they would be able to do something like that on their own, or if they'd be able to allocate that money into those directions. I mean, because that was what do we always hear? You lose money on regionals, you lose money on the games. I mean, it's not like, or even if you break even, there was a lot of things that were really undercut price wise to make that happen at that level. So there would have to be an influx of money somewhere. Of course, everyone's going to say, it's the Open. You have $1 bazillion in the Open.
Yeah. I think if the sanctuaries are able to pull a little bit of money from the Open, like you had kind of allocated some sort of revenue share there, I think a big question comes over autonomy of sponsors. So obviously CrossFit will have some sort of sponsors for the CrossFit Games season. Where is the line where a lot of events are able to pool money from local sponsorships? A great example is this. I believe some of the Chinese events receive some funding from the government or the Ministry of Sport in order to operate. Now, that gets kind of sticky with some red tape if you're going to be doing that. But also there's just some brands, like, I mean, you guys have seen, that are more relevant to the European market than there are to the United States. True. You can't go to an event in Europe without NOCO being a sponsor, but they largely are just starting to break into the U.S. market now. So I think that'll be a kind of a needle you have to thread there about, okay, maybe these are the top tier sponsors, but then everyone else gets to pick their middle of the way sponsors.
But what you,
As,
sorry, go ahead, Tommy.
go ahead, because I was going to move on to a different
Okay.
point.
What I was going to say was that revenue stream, when you were saying that amount of money has to be used for the media, I think what could be done is have a minimum plan. Here is the minimum that you're going to have for coverage. Here's the minimum amount that it'll cost. You're going to have like when we did the regional truck. You
Like
know,
no
you
matter
had your
what.
producer, you have this, you have whether it's whether you're going to have your cameramen or you're going to get people that are there locally. Here's the minimum box that you're going to have. It costs this amount of money. This amount of money is going to go out to the sanctioned events, and this is what they're going to get, so they know exactly what they're going to be getting. I mean, I'm sure there'll be some fluctuations in that as far as like what kind of, I mean, what always goes down. It's always the Wi-Fi, depending where you go. So depending what event you're in, or how high up in the mountains you are, or whatever. But I think generally speaking, you could very easily say every event is going to have packaged whatever, and then go from there.
And that could be part of like a bridge to build between. So say the revenue share in the first couple of years isn't that big because of the open. You could have CrossFit effectively through their media broadcast deal, work it in to where, I'm going to just again use CBS as an example. CBS's deal pays for some of the infrastructure to get cameras and people there, but some of the streaming rights for local channels are retained by the event. So, maybe instead of having your own director, your own producer, your own everything, you have just your own commentators and your own like local language people kind of filling in, almost similar to the world feed.
Yeah.
To kind of cut down costs. That way, maybe CrossFit doesn't have to make that same investment to each one monetarily, but they can essentially invest by providing infrastructure through a partnership deal that could make it easier.
And keep in mind, so if you did 4 events over 4 weeks, that is essentially what we used to do before regionals changed. So if that's a cost that HQ decides that we have the money to incur, it's not like they haven't paid for that before.
Mm-hmm.
This one might be, I don't know, since they're not paying for the venue, that's going to be on the event. That might save them some money, but that's not out of the realm of possibility. If you get an influx of cash and you get a network and a sponsor that's really interested, that could happen.
All right.
So
let's talk this selection show, because I'm not wearing a Marv Albert style suit jacket just to dance around that question. But the so the selection show happens before the season.
Yes.
Okay.
After the open, before the season.
Okay. So you're not sure where you're going. It's a nice little bridge piece of media to kind of go in between.
I think you would have to have an inkling though, because you'd have to have these events scheduled ahead of time. So you'd have to know kind of what is like your where you're going, like vicinity wise. So if there's a couple, I don't know why I keep going back to the Northeast, but if you just use the Northeast, that, well, maybe I'm going, and Atlas Games is round 1 and Mid-Atlantic CrossFit Challenge is round 1. I'm going to one of those 2 places probably if I finish in the top 10.
Is it possible to maybe do the selection show as the kickoff for like the first open announcement, so that the start of the season lays out the path and then gives you the first workout to sink your teeth in? I feel like the athletes might be a little bit wary to sign up for something given the past year before knowing their full path to the games and what's in front of them.
I like that idea a lot. I think that would get people super fired up.
Yeah, that would be so cool.
We'd have to have Dave not read that, because that would take like an 8-hour show. But let's see. Okay. And then
I like that idea a lot.
The other one would be a pecking order. So like, what would be the pecking order for sanctionals, and how would we dictate? Would that be something that would rotate? Is there, is it going to be something like a World Championships that moves each year? Is it almost like relegation, like soccer, where you got to prove year over year that you're good enough to move up to that next rung, and it swaps out?
So I've been thinking about this, and I was, because I knew that this was going to come up, and I've asked myself this too, is let's face it, there are some entities out there putting these things on who have a lot more resources than some of the others. And I feel like there should be, and I don't know if I call it a buy-in, but I feel like you should get in at a level. So if you want to be like a first round event, look, you're still getting great athletes. You're still going to get, put on a fantastic event.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe the buy-in cost or whatever that you have to contribute to whatever pool exists is lower. but you also have the option of one day moving into round 2 at some point. Okay, like you might be in the 8.
Yeah.
I think for the final 4, there are a select few who can be part of that. And that might
majors?
rotate a little bit. Yeah, that might rotate a little bit. And with a year, let's say, for example, Wadapalooza is one of the final 4 this year. You might have a rule where you can only be a final 4 2 years in a row. So if you've been 2 years in a row, then they drop back to the round of 8, and then someone else comes in. But they'll never be round 1. So try to keep it organized like that. And I guess you would just put a price tag on it. Be like, okay, your fee is X to get in at a round 1 level, like you're round 1. And then if you're in the 8, you got to pay at least this. And if you want to be in the 4, now we're talking a lot of money, because you're talking about like your Rogues, your Loud Lives, your Dubai. It's like those are the people who probably have the resources to put that on at the level that you would need them to put it on.
And if you're
that's kind of how I thought about that.
Yeah, and if you're a savvy businessman, the autonomy that the sanctional system gives you, if you can build up capital over time, then that allows you to move up, since you can kind of just point to the it's like the affiliate system, right?
Right.
A little bit.
Yeah. That's part of why I wanted CrossFit to take over the what we can call them majors, like regionals, super regionals, and majors. I don't know, but
yeah,
to that they would control that just like they did old regionals. Is like, look, this is the north, south, east, west major. This is our production. This, and so that leaves you, not to say, who knows if all 28 sanctioned events want to come back, but if not, you still got 24 with the 16 and 8 round. And if CrossFit takes over that 4, that takes a little bit of the why not me to get in the prime time thing. And also that's incentive for CrossFit HQ to get in there, because now it's their show and it's the most watched one. And, if you want to get those TV sponsorships, you want to make sure you control that position. Is like, you don't want some other sanctioned event to control your destiny as a company. Right. So that's why I wanted CrossFit to take over those, just like they did in the old regional system, and then give those 24 sanctioned events an opportunities to rotate through that 16 and 8. And if you do want to make it monetary based off great. I would love to try to get them away from having to pay anything. I feel like they're doing enough work as it is to put on these events for CrossFit, because then it's like, okay, here's your revenue share. Oh, but you're going to pay us again.
You'll give us our money right back.
Yeah.
So I think the one thing I kicked around with Sean on that was in your selection committee. I don't know if you wanted to make it regionally based or you wanted to put athletes wherever you wanted to, but make it some type of performance merit based off the athletes that you had throughout the season and how they shook up. Maybe it's like, if your event qualified 6 athletes to the majors, that gets you into the Elite 8 next year or something like that. Make it performance based. So now the sanctioned events, Tommy, you talked about this last time, is like the one thing you didn't like to see get away from sanctioned events is that you couldn't see your horse or like your tribute of the sanctioned events compete at the games. And now this allows them. It's like, we had 7 athletes qualified from the CrossFit Games from our flow or our season or our Elite 8 position or something like that.
Yeah.
It's a little bit obviously much more complicated than that, but
it's like an NFL coaching tree.
Yeah.
Well,
those are my guys.
Yeah. And I think too, if you kept it to where, all the prize money was equal across the board and was provided to you, you could rotate it through however you wanted, because now a smaller event that winds up maybe in the final 4, well, they don't have to pony up that cash for prize money. That's being provided to them. So they could be a major as well. I think you can, you could rotate it through, figure out a system however you want it, kind of like the, college or the Super Bowl or the
BCS.
That. You would just rotate it through. And then, some of the major events would have to maybe be like the round of 8 or even, drop back to the round of 16, but you're still able to put on your own event however you want to put it with athletes who are not games athletes. You can do, and you can give them whatever you want. But when it comes to the qualifying events for the games, you have to have these events with these athletes, and they have to be run this way, and they get X at the end of it. Like that's got all of the standard. But really, if you go to that system where all the prize money is provided, it doesn't matter. Everyone could get a turn.
Well, and I don't think that I mean, you guys have seen these events. There's no way you're going to be able to have one show with your elite people that are trying to qualify, and then the local throwdown that goes along with that. They're going to do the same events. No one's going to be able to. No one's going to plan all these other events for the RX and the general show. But I think that if the money and the broadcast is provided, that money for that is provided, and it does rotate through. One, it is super cool because everybody already knows that like the big money ones are the big money ones right now, and like they get that. But it would be cool if, I mean, you got to look at this over the course of 10 years, where you have an event that ends up in that top 4 spot, and then it goes down to the bottom. But they just had all these big people here, and they're going to be making their way back up. So now you're going to be able to see. I mean, it does make a big story out of that, and you start to see the athletes as they cruise, and then it doesn't come down to I'm only going to Dubai because of the money.
Right.
It's going to I'm going to qualify wherever they say I'm going to qualify, and the event is the event. And I mean, they can decide to make it as whatever they want it to be, but like here's the minimum, so everyone gets to meet that minimum. I really think that'll do some really cool thing for the events. It will. I don't think it will downplay the bigger events like the Dubais and the Wadapaloozas and all that. What it will do is bring up to that level the other events and make them all just as cool and just as badass to watch and be part of. And then it just makes the story that much greater. I mean, look at what they do for the Olympics and stuff like that. As it cycles around from place to place to place, it gets to highlight that time when it's there. But I mean, the coverage is basically the same. The setups are basically the same, all that kind of stuff. So I like that idea. I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah. To me, the most important thing has always been.
Are you all right? Did you blow something out down there, Tommy? What's up?
I almost burnt my apartment down.
That would have been fun. But I'm such a big fan of the way the old system was. And I've said this before, how you could lay it out at the very end and you could see everybody took the same test. Everybody walked the same path. And this guy and this woman, they are without a doubt the fittest people on earth. Now, there's some elements in sports in there where, you got to show up on one weekend and you got to compete. Maybe you got to travel and you're not in your home gym. And maybe you wanted to compete in California, but you finished 12th. So, now you're down in South America. Then maybe that makes a difference. So there is that element of sport there. But at the end of the day, you have, with this system, a much more robust test that everybody takes. And at the end, that guy and that woman are the fittest.
Yeah, and let's face it, Sean, we've all made some mistakes and then, ended up in South America. It's just the natural maturation process.
One of the things that's actually kind of cool that I just thought about was when based on how you qualify, where you're going to be going. So it used to be that like, the athletes would have their sponsors. And they would be like, okay, you're going to, I'll sponsor you to go to this event or this big one over here, whatever. There'd be a handful. It wasn't that like, all right, I'm going to sponsor you to go to 16 events this season to hopefully try to get you to the games and have to pay for the flights and the hotel and all that kind of stuff. Now for the sponsors, it seems to me like they would be, okay, I know where you're going. You placed here, you're going that way. So I know that I can pay for you to get there. I'm not going to go for 8 events trying to get you to go to the games. I'm going to go for this one here. So I'm going to make sure you have a good flight. I'm going to make sure you have a good hotel and make sure you have some food and make sure you're taken care of. And it allows the sponsor to really take care of the athletes as well without just throwing money in the air hoping that it goes. So, I mean, that's, with a lot of the things that have been coming up with the athlete affiliate thing that they're just kind of creating. Yeah. I think that's going to help because now they would be able to pitch to the sponsors what they actually need the money for, not just to travel around the world and hope that I can get in or have a dream to get in. It's like, here are my steps and you're going to have to pay for this one. If I'm really, really good and I'm going to make it all the way through, you're probably going to get a lot more out of me as a commodity anyway. Yeah. So they would be willing to put up that money. So I like that too.
You've got a natural hierarchy for athletes too. If you're like, hey, I'm a super regional level athlete. Yes. You're getting this many appearance fees from me. You're getting me under this amount of media throughout the year. And as your merit warrants you, you get to go further along in the season. Yeah. That hopefully gets more lucrative for them. So I have a couple questions.
All right.
Time frame. So I'm looking at the schedule right now.
Mhm.
Assuming the Open stays, is in February. We'll say the second weekend of February because it gives us a weekend. The weekend before is the Super Bowl, and I want to make
I
sure
thought
I
you were going to say
enjoy
my
that.
birthday.
Um, yeah, totally. Yeah. So I mean, you're looking at 3 weekends in February, 2 weekends in March. Trying to give athletes. You're thinking about athlete, I guess, safety long term in terms of wear and tear. You give them a couple weeks in March and most of April. You can bridge the gap for the last weekend of April, first couple weekends of May. You give at least another full month that you go a full month and a half, we'll say 6 weeks for the second round. Last week of June, first 3 weekends of July. Um, then with the smaller field, you can do a faster turnaround, and then around mid-August, you can do the finale so there's 3 regional steps, right?
Right.
In between.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you have the
16,
third
18.
regional step, and then you're doing the games at the end of September.
Yeah. September, October.
Totally.
So
Tommy, this is why I love your brain a lot.
okay.
You
Oh,
wrote the exact same thing down.
Yeah.
heck yeah, yeah, and so and this is wishful thinking. So one of the things that I think has been a little bit handicapped in the past is being tied to the school year. So if for someone like Madison, Wisconsin, you know, doing games in September isn't always feasible because you have NCAA football coming in, and then you have the schools which provide dorm rooms for volunteers and things like that. Messes up a lot of infrastructure. Maybe one day that won't matter. Maybe then we could start polishing up, those old Olympic venues that don't get used anymore, or some of the bigger time venues that are basically irrespective of that. And I think at that point, by the time you get to the games, you've provided enough uh, opportunities for fan involvement and like live event production to not necessarily have to be handicapped to those type of things and handcuffed by circumstances around whether or not your kid's in school.
Well, you bring up the idea of the Olympics. Why not just kind of, follow back behind or do 2 years, at an Olympic venue, and the next 2 years it goes somewhere else, or, and have that rotate. I mean, that's one of the things you always hear about the Olympics is they put all this money into it. They even try to make them, playgroundy type things after that, and it never really seems to work out. So we can use them. Why
Yeah.
not?
They did that for the Latin American regional. They had it
Yeah.
at the Brazil, the Rio de Janeiro Olympic
was it
Village, and it was a ghost town.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yep.
So why not be able to use something like that? And then that would. I mean, it's nice. It's nice to be able to know if you're at Madison and you know your setup and you can kind of master your setup a little bit and that type of thing. But I I think that I don't think it has to be that we lock down to where it's always at Madison. It's always at
Yeah.
Carson. It's always at this place or that place. It's nice to be able to choose some of the events and be able to utilize the area that's around. And like Madison has a great setup with all the water and the mountain biking and all that kind of stuff. So I mean, there's a lot of things to choose from, which is great. But it's not like that's the only place in the world that has that. And if we're looking at some places that have, if you're looking at a worldwide competition setup, which is what the Olympics are, then guess what? It's going to have your water and your mountains and your this and your that. So why not?
Yeah. And I'd imagine any sponsors or like media partner would love that. I mean, that's one of the great things about the Olympics, right? Is you get the taste of the cultural flavor, and
Yes.
it breaks up the monotony of seeing the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
The other question I have is the role of masters and teens in this
Mhm.
this system, because the last 2 years the age groups have, and with the advent of the 35 to 39 division, masters and teens. Could you hear that?
Yeah, we
I
got
got
you.
you.
Oh,
I got
sorry. The masters and teens make up roughly 50% of the open population. So that is a significant portion of revenue that you don't necessarily want to kick to the curb.
Yeah, I'd be okay with sending them through a similar process and figuring that out. But what
Ooh.
it's yes, Chase. Save me.
All
I
right.
know you guys can't see this. I'm raising my hand. I'm politely raising my hand in the background.
Yeah.
Pick me.
What if finally, for the round of 16 only, you send your masters and teens through a regional qualifier to the CrossFit Games?
Oh,
Love it. I think that would be great. The
And
only thing
you send whatever number, like make it like crazy accessible, but like 10 in every age group qualifies out of the open to this region. There'll only be 10 competing, and maybe the top 2 or 3 go to the CrossFit Games straight from there. But could you imagine the idea that I could be in my age division and I only have to be the top 10 in my region to go to one of these 16 regionals? You know how many people would sign up for that opportunity?
I like that a lot. I
Yeah.
think that's great. And the reason why, I was unsure how to include them is because I feel with this system, you are asking these sanctioned events to give up some level of autonomy that they're used to having. You're
Yeah.
saying, okay, you got to run these events in this fashion with this many people. You got to do it in this order. So they would basically have to do the same thing with the masters athletes as well. And I don't want to take away too much of that from them, so where they can still have their community events, their RX, scale, whatever they want to call it. They can still do that with minimal interference. But I think if you're only running 2 heats of individuals, 2 heats of 10 for the most part, maybe you've got to cut it down to 5 sometimes. That's not a lot of time. So I think that's a great idea to go, for the round of 16, we're going to qualify, the top 10 masters in each age group out of
In those regions.
in those regions. You guys are going to go, you're going to follow the same path as everybody else. And then it's the
So
top.
many
Jason's
people.
point, yeah.
There would be a ton. Well, I would say this. Masters are kind of a trippy group. Masters in age group. They're a unique group because they want and they clamor for having that kind of stuff. But then, I mean, just like what we saw, Chase and I, we did the programming for the TMIC. The Masters Collective just went down this past weekend. Even though those were the only things out there, and that was an online competition and a in-person competition, there weren't the numbers that you would want there to be. So, I still think it would be a great idea to have, but, and you always hear, well, the masters, they're the ones with the money. Okay.
But they're
I
not the ones who
honestly
bring in the
have not
eyeballs.
seen them show up the way that they say that they want to show up. I love the idea. And the reason I love the idea is because I'll tell you what, we got to see a lot of videos of people doing their events. And let's just say that, like, there are a lot of athletes that need to have a judge that judges them while they're doing the event. I mean, they have to. That's just what has to happen. No? Am I tooting my horn on that one?
No, I think I think you're 100% right. And this is the conversation I always have with masters athletes is that, yes, you deserve a chance to compete. You deserve to show off and be crowned the fittest. You deserve all of that. But understand, you are not the draw. You're not. You're never going to be the same draw as the individual and the team. So if you can get that, if you are okay with that, then then we can work with this here. But I think that I love the round of 16 idea. I think that's a good compromise. Good job.
Chase, you got jazz hands over there.
Lightning just struck my brain.
Okay.
So you 16. So you do teams and masters just because there's so many of them, especially if you're taking 10. And so when we're talking about how to funnel these sanctioned events 16 and 8, and I'm just going to keep the concept of the majors belong to CrossFit HQ, is that maybe in the round of 8, these are the deals, is that, okay, so the masters and teens qualified from those 16 to the games. You got rid of the age group online qualifier, which saves a lot of money for HQ in terms of a new leaderboard and judging videos and all that other stuff. Okay, so now you funnel it to the sanctioned events. Please take care of the masters. Send them to us in September.
Yeah.
Round of 8. Now you bring in your national champions and you filter them through in the same little system on a bigger stage, but they're relegated regionally. And then you take like your top 5 after those 8, and they go to the CrossFit Games for their own separate competition.
Oh, okay. So like a Nations Cup. Okay.
Yeah, Nations Cup.
That was important because I was like, where's
separate competitions for the masters, separate competitions for the national champions who choose to be a national champion, and then your round of 8 also picks up a whole new viewership because now it's the national champions fighting to go to the CrossFit Games for their own competition on the side, separate from the mainstay competition for the individuals and teams.
Okay.
And I think that would be something that they would have to choose in the beginning. You're either in the running for the games, or
Yes.
you're in the running for the national championship cup.
Well, we had this discussion, and our last one is like in the open, you choose CrossFit Games individual path that excludes you from going back to teams and going back to masters and going back to national champion.
Totally.
You putting your hat in the ring to go as an individual. You get no foot out the door.
Nope.
That's it. All right. So like, which would be nice because if, say Tia and Cara and whoever, like out of Australia, want to go to the games, that opens up more opportunity for someone to be the national champion of Australia, which would bring in more people because no one's going to sign up to be a national champ for Australia. They're not going to beat Tia.
Right.
But if you take them all out of the picture, you get 10,000 more people to sign up because now they have a chance because that spot is now vacated.
I like
that. Yeah, I think that's important that you got one ticket and you get to pick the ride you're going to go. You're either going to go the open route, like the main event route. You're going to go teams, or you're going to go the auxiliary route, which is going to be your masters or your the national champ. And I think that that's important. Even like at the 35, 39, the baby masters, you have to choose. I'm either going baby masters or I'm going open. So if you're Sam Briggs, you have to decide which way you're going to go. And if you don't make the games, your season's done. Yeah. Not like you get to go to the masters division and hop into and disrupt that world. You pick one track. And you're on that track and you ride that till the season's done, period.
Just so you guys know, I'm going to choose baby masters next
year. I don't know why I made like this. Oh, I have to choose face as if I have Oh. Of course I'm going to be baby
master. All right. I'm going to go 60 plus then.
Yeah. I like that. I like the choose, this isn't, the choose your own adventure book where you're, oh crap, I picked the wrong one. Let's flip back a few pages and try and not die at page 12. But it's funny because one of the systems that I've really enjoyed the most, like over the course of, being involved in sports, it was funny enough in California, there was no unified state championships up until I want to say 2007 or 2008. It was regional. It was like basically kind of like your half of California or your third of California, and then within your sections, and within your sections for our section, you had what was called an open division, and then which didn't matter your school size, you could just opt in. If you're like you could opt in. If you're like I got a once in a generation team, but our school has 400 kids, I can opt in and go join the open division with the 10,000 kid schools and try and compete with them. I realize I may have made a suggestive gesture just a second ago. However, but I love that because it basically that's essentially what we have here. If you feel like you can make that jump, regardless of any other circumstances, age, development, whatever, you can go do that. But then you got to stay there. If my high school could have won a Division IV title every year in and year out, and just racked them up. But they wanted the open division. There was incentive to do that, and then it opened up the path for other schools to win Division IV. And now you have a broader swath of schools that have a fighting chance, and so there's incentive to actually build programs there.
Yeah,
just put it on the table. Just put it on the table and let's go.
Let's go, man! Like line them up, up.
I promised my fiance that those days were behind me.
Oh, well, I think we made some progress here.
Yeah,
I do like that idea, man.
I like this system. I am married to the old regional system. Like I have yet to hear anything that I like better than that. And this is, I think, better than that now because it's more opportunities. It allows all the sanctioned events to have more or less an equal part in this thing. It lets athletes that maybe people in China would never see all of a sudden show up there. Like if you finish bottom 10 in California, maybe you have to go to Shanghai and compete. Yeah. And now, those are athletes that fan base will never see. And it cross-pollinates the regions enough to where you can get rid of that. Well, that region is such a powerhouse. Like the 10th place guy should be able to make it to the games over the first place guy down there. It takes that out. Like you don't have that really anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I was thinking with the sanctionals as well? Like, okay, so you have your number, and you can set up a waiting list for new locations that want to hop in, and like you got to wait till someone hops out, or they choose to come out, or they get told that they need to get out because they just ran a shitty setup or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
They move out, next group can move in, and so that would build an area that like it make. I mean, everybody wants to get on the inside of the velvet rope, right? So now you have these groups out there standing outside that velvet rope and waiting for someone to step out, and then it's their turn to come in, and they get to put on a show. And there's incentive now to put on that show because it's like, oh man, we're in. Here we go.
Mm-hmm. I feel like that's where this affiliate model concept comes in, which originally was trying to throw into the sanctioned events. It's just like trying to vie to host a Super Bowl or the NCAA tournament. Is like you present, you're like, hey, here's our venue. Here's the access to the hotels we have. These are the things that our venue will have. And like you're almost pitching it to HQ, who would eventually decide on what the venues would be and where they would be regionally located. So it almost forces people to get better at what they do just to get into the arena.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
totally.
The biggest hurdle though to me is it's still the scheduling. It's still getting all these different events to be like, we need you guys all in a 1 month window. Like, how do you work that out? And and that going back to deciding who is in what round, that could play a role in that. So if I just can't schedule here, but I can schedule there. All right, you're on the 8. That's
when you got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
Sometimes possible. You're just gonna have to throw some darts out there and just see where things land.
Right.
Who can make this weekend work? Okay, we'll have you here, but you'll be, let's say you're one of the bigger events and you can't do these other time frames for whatever reason, the venue or whatever. Okay, you'll be in the first round this year, but we'll bump you into the next round next year so you can plan ahead and get that set up, and so you can start that cycle. You're gonna have someone starting in the opening rounds and someone starting in the big rounds.
Yeah.
But again, if you can make it to where everyone has the same amount of money to work with in that same setup, you're gonna get your chance.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think the sanctioned events aren't planning on doing a one and done lifetime for them. They want to be in the game for a while. So this gives them that longevity and allows them to be like, okay, we'll rotate through, and when they're on the lower rounds, then they can kind of practice with some stuff and see what works and kind of fine tune some things if they need to.
Yeah, and it's very possible that you could take this model and just compress it a little bit, depending on whether or not how many sanctioned events actually stick around next year.
Yeah,
given everything,
totally.
For all we know, that there may only be 21, but you basically use this format to scale accordingly, and then the time frame issue isn't as big of a problem. And but I like the framework of this, at least, of like you get back to that funneling system, and basically every playoff championship style system works like that, and whether it's the NCAA tournament, or the NBA playoffs, which are on hiatus right now, but or any other type format, you never have this, like, it's never a buffet, right? It's never like, oh, let's grab here, let's grab here, let's grab here, let's grab here, and then by the end we have this plate. It's always working downhill, narrower the scope until we get to the sharp, pointy end.
Well, and we didn't even get a chance. We had no choice but to go buffet style.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like, here we're gonna yank the thing off the table, and hopefully that all the bottles stay standing upright. But everyone just, they tried to make something work, and everyone scrambled. Yeah. There was just no way of getting around it.
Well, Tommy, to your point, I just want you to picture this, because I want you to get a little more excited. Picture at the start of the CrossFit Games season, a bracket of all the sanctioned events going down.
You're speaking to a guy that would do the third week of the Open, then hop on basically a 8 p.m. flight to Vegas for the opening of March Madness. Like, you're speaking my language right now, Sean.
It's a nice big bracket from both sides. Atlas Games and Mid-Atlantic, and you're going to strength and depth. You're going to this Final Four, and you're going here. That's
that is pretty cool.
My love languages are words of affirmation and bracketology.
Yeah, love me some brackets.
And just thinking like the shows you could do in between the rounds.
Yeah,
So many.
If they are serious about the level that I think they want of media coverage on this, I think this format lends itself to that extremely well.
Totally.
You got an hour episode for every regional that happened in the round of 16. Post production.
Easy.
You have tons of highlights. You have this constant titration of content throughout the season. That's what a media partner wants, right? That's why we were attractive in the first place. Is that you had this season running from February to August, and there was plenty of content constantly coming out throughout the year.
Well, and for people on site, here's another cool thing. Remember how cool it was? Like if you were on site at one of those regionals and there was a break and you would look up on the Jumbotron and you'd see the studio show, hey, we're going to get you updated on what's going on in the South.
See all the other
you were
stuff.
At like a round one sanctioned event, qualifying event. You look up, it's like, oh, here's what's going on out West. Wow, that guy just did this and this dude's in danger of getting cut. Like you can still keep people up to date at the live venues. I mean, I love it.
The biggest thing I love about this is, Tommy, you were just saying, it's like the season. Really, in the old system, it was a very short season for the individual athletes, right? You did the Open, you did one event, and then you went to the CrossFit Games. In this format, they get a legitimate season. They have the Open, they have 3 qualifying competitions, and then they get to the game. So I feel like this broadens what would be a actual season for these top tier individual athletes that they've been looking for. So you don't have that like one and done freak out pressures. Like, look, get your stuff together in the round of 16. You can make the top 10.
Yeah. Or the other thing that it does, is it keeps the one and done where like you're the Matt Fraser and you crush the field in the Open. You're like, I'll see you in 8 months. I'm going to go relax. I'm going to, everything's going to get healed up. It's like, no, we're going to force you to be an athlete in your season. You have to be an active participant in your season. Like your season's from here to here. And if you're as good as Matt is, like, cool, that's great. You get to do that, but that's not, most sports aren't like that. I mean, I don't know any sport that's like that, where you get something that early and you get to hang out and wait.
You don't keep the prize horse in the pen. You let it out and run. And there's incentive to run right now, because at these multiple stages, if you're moving on, you're stacking up prize purses here and there that help support, on top of the sponsorship appearances, on top of all the other elements that are involved with physically showing your face in more places across the globe.
And just that athlete exposure, right? You get to put your brand out there as an individual 3 different times. And now it's going to increase the fan base. Like, you know what? I didn't know about this guy, but I watched his highlight video from the round of 16, and I'm going to follow him all the way through. And oh gosh, this is,
I like it a lot, because even if you get to the final 40 in the major round, you've seen the top 40 athletes in the world step into live competition 3 times on top of the Open. I mean, let's be honest. The top athletes want to talk about earning potential and the opportunity to nice choice, by the way, to basically give themselves more chances. Only 1 more calorie than Mitchell. I am the guy they market to. That is me. But let's be serious. There's only maybe a few dozen athletes that realistically can look right now at the long-term earning potential of multiple appearances and being able to compete and actually rack up prize purses. But now you've basically guaranteed that 40 athletes are going to earn, hopefully, a livable wage, at least from the appearances alone, assuming they take care of their marketing right. And
it's also going to direct the eyes. It's going to direct the eyes of all the fans, which is going to direct the eyes to the sponsors, which is going to allow hopefully, and I have yet to see anyone do this really very effectively, is having sponsors drive the viewing audience to their website to go and get their stuff, not just showing a great produced. Rogue is a really good one. They make some really cool commercials, but they never say go buy anything. Mm-hmm. So it's like you see this, cool steel and the flex are sparking off all over, and it's like, yeah, made in the USA, and it's awesome. And then that's it. But the way you're going to drive revenue is you getting people to go and buy things, having flash sales, having things that are happening just as you're watching the live stream, that broadcast, where you're pushing them to the website to get those people to get those companies to sell more product, so that they can pump more money to their athletes, so that they can get out there and do their thing. That should be that cyclical setup, and it never it hasn't been designed that way. Like, we haven't been in that situation for it to work that way. It's, I'm going to throw a bunch of protein at you and that's it, you know?
Yeah.
Huh?
Me and Bill have nerded out on the concept of sponsors
Oh,
sponsoring certain
man.
events, like midway is like, oh, well, this workout has wall balls in it. Well, if you go to Rogue for this event time frame only, it's 20% off.
Oh.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, where it's like you have to be watching now.
The
Fitness.
muscle up event or bar where it's like, yeah, so this is the barbell or bar muscle up event, or it has 100 pull-ups. Well, if you go to Bear Complex during this time frame, or it's like, so you get intro event sponsors that detail specifically to that, so that there's a rush. There's like, this is the only time you're going to be able to get this discount during this event. But like I said, that's a whole separate topic that me and Bill have gotten crazy over in the past.
But what it does is it really allows you, just like we were talking about, it puts the athletes in the right place. It allows the sponsors to put their money with their athlete. That works hand in hand the way it's supposed to. The athletes are able to have, ideally a sustainable living to do that. They're able to get where they need to go with the sponsors, and you're driving the fans to watch the sport from start to finish all the way through,
I love that, like, flash sale concept. Like, you get me all hopped up on tequila and Diet Mountain Dew. I'm buying as much money as my paycheck, as much equipment as my paycheck can allow in that moment.
When is
if
the
I'm
Snatch
watching
event coming?
Yeah.
Barbells to buy.
Oh yeah. Oh man. I don't know why I would need 4 different barbells and a
Who
kid's
cares?
a kid's
like
barbell. I
Target.
don't even have a kid yet, but you know what? Wishful thinking and proper marketing.
All right. Well, I know we can talk about this for a long time,
Yeah.
but we wanted to get this in front of 2 people we trust. I hope you like it.
Yeah.
I would love to pitch this
yeah.
to someone over at who has decision-making power. Because
Well, as the only person
I'm proud
wearing
of
a
this.
suit
I'm proud
in
of this
this,
idea. I think it's really. I think this is a great solution.
Yeah.
I'm willing to.
You guys did a great job. No, that's a great idea. When you said seeding, I was like, oh, you're not gonna be able to do that. There's no way.
Yeah. Well,
But that's impressive, dude. I like it.
I just would like to announce the unofficially official completion of the CrossFit Games season competition committee. We'll be awaiting your emails shortly after the release of this episode.
All right. Well, yeah. I mean, I'm serious. I'll pitch this to anybody. I'll get Jason and I and you guys will get in a room and we'll make this happen, because I think this is a win for everybody.
Yeah.
So,
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
This was so much better than any stupid idea we made up on our last podcast.
Stupid idea I've come up with.
And that was, hey, you got to see it as that's the foothold. That's where you start. You gotta flesh some idea. We were fleshing ideas out on the fly.
Right.
So it's all right, man. It's all right.
How it goes is Thomas Edison failed 10,000 times before he invented the filament that made the light bulb. And he
There
just
you go.
said, I found 10,000 different ways how not to make one.
How many different iterations do you think Captain America's shield went through, Chase?
Well, the last time I saw a movie, there was at least 8 to 10 different options that he had to choose from.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, guys, thanks so much for doing this. We always have a blast when you guys are on the show. And like I said, I know we could talk forever on this, but I just wanted to get that idea out there, maybe get some momentum behind it. And maybe, fingers crossed, we can make this happen, because I think it would be fun for everybody involved.
Oh man, I got all my fingers crossed. I think it was a great idea. Awesome.
Cool. Chase, Bill, thank you so much. We will definitely encourage you guys to listen to their podcast. If you haven't already checked out Get With The Programming, do it. Just really fast, I'll let you guys plug away here. What do you have coming up on Get With The Programming?
We just finished our 2011 Rush Moments, our top 4.
Okay.
So we got 2012 coming up. And I'll be honest, if you guys ever have one of your favorite years and you want to hop on and give us your 4 favorite non-ranked moments of the years, just let us know. And then analyzing the 2016 CrossFit Games is our next analyzing episode we have coming up.
All right. Yeah.
Nice.
And you can find you guys on YouTube and anywhere you get your podcast, right? Get With The Programming.
We're all over.
right.
All of the same
Check them
places.
out. All right.
Check
So
us.
we'll leave you with that. So for Chase Ingram, Bill Grundler, Tommy Marquez, I'm Sean Woodland. Thanks so much for listening. Hope you liked the idea, and we'll talk to you guys soon.